Hello to our freaky family. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Kandi.
And this is Sips of Crime. Oh, hi.
Hi.
You're back. Welcome to Sips of Crime, your favorite true crime podcast. Kandi, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm, just the normal around here.
Oh, is this the normal? I didn't think this was normal.
I mean, no, it's not normal, but...
So we are actually not in our pod lab recording because we woke up and my power was out. So we had to move to a different location. So if the sound is a little off, we are in a much larger open room than we normally are. So hopefully the sound isn't too bad. We're also recording early. I'm still drinking coffee.
Yes, we are.
So weird.
We are recording early. But
Earlier than we normally do, at least.
But maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe that is a good thing. Well, we have a couple of exciting things happening right now. We officially have a website now, sipsofcrime.com, which I'm just now realizing means that we have to record another outro.
Oh, we do?
At some point, yeah.
Sure do.
Sipsofcrime.com. It's super exciting. You can go on there and check out all of the episodes. There's a place there where you can listen. You can also start submitting your stories through a form that's on there as well. So if you have a listener story that you want to put out, that's, your own personal true crime story or paranormal, or to be completely honest with you, just anything that you guys might have thought is funny. I mean, things, that you guys found in the walls while, redoing houses, or whatever happened to be in that box in your grandpa's attic that nobody ever opened until after he passed away. Just really anything that can, let us lighten up the mood a little bit, something that you guys find funny. We're really open to anything. So that's super exciting. We also have a monthly newsletter on that page. So you can go to that and see there's a wine of the month that we'll have on there. We're also featuring a podcast of the month, a featured podcast. And then any updates, for Sips of Crime will be on there. So lots of fun stuff coming. Also, the kids are back in school now.
Yes.
They started school again, and I wanted to...
As I had to pick mine up early today.
Yes, I'm telling you. The universe is working against us.
It is. I need it to stop.
They went back to school, and so, I had this kind of idea that I had wanted to put out something fun as far as our merch goes. And so me and Kandi decided that given the season... with the kids going back to school, that we were going to release a line of vintage college tees. And so, of course, we reached back out to Caruso. Miss Caruso has done it again for us. And so officially we have a college line on our merch page, which can also be found at sipsofcrime.com. These are a lot of fun because they're not like you're just, your typical college
No, they
tees.
have really cute sayings.
Yes. So what I ultimately had kind of envisioned was some play on words to do with serial killers and true crime and stuff like that. And I really gave her just creative freedom on this. I told her kind of what I was looking for, what we wanted to collaborate on. And then I just said, do it. Whatever you come up with, this is your baby. And I said, send over what you come up with and we'll go from there. And she just absolutely killed it. I mean, she absolutely killed it. That is literally the only direction I gave her. She got to pick the serial killers, the designs, all that stuff. So she has one for Jeffrey Dahmer. Mm-hmm. It's JD Culinary School.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hilarious. She came up with a Zodiac Killer Mystery Man Fraternity t-shirt. Ooh. One that just says psychopath instead of psych class.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. What was the other one that she did? Oh, Charles Manson, Family Dynamics. The Family Dynamics class.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And so all of those are officially live. under the Caruso Custom Collection on our merch page. Go and check them out. They're a lot of fun. And of course, we'll post it on Instagram as well. So we just thought that would be, something a little different to put out there. So that's super, super exciting. Other than that, I think that's all of the business that I have.
Nice.
The website and the new t-shirt line. Anything I'm missing?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, good. So, what are we drinking today?
We are going to be drinking Sea Stone Rosé because if you saw the Instagram and Facebook stories, I had wine delivered to Michelle's house.
Yes.
Because it was just easier.
It's for the podcast.
Yeah, it's worth it. And if you have not checked out a place near you that does deliver wine, you should do it.
Is Total Wine like a...
there are multiple places. I just don't know.
Like, does every state have one?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's like our big outlet store where
alcohol.
Of alcohol. Yeah, it's not a liquor store. You can't buy liquor there, but you can buy wine, beer.
Michelle loves rosés.
Yes, I do.
This Vinho Verde Rosé was carefully produced and hand-selected from the northern coastal area of Portugal. It's a crisp and fresh with a full fruit flavor. That's a tongue twister. With a full fruit flavor and a smooth and light finish. Delightfully refreshing and on its own or with seafood, hors d'oeuvres, salads, spicy food. Ooh, right up our alley.
Fun.
It says serve it chilled. It's kind of cold here, so it's probably, a little chillier than room temp.
Sorry.
I'm not really worried about it.
I should have put it in the fridge when we got here. Cheers. It's like a semi-sweet rosé.
Reasonable. It is a little carbonated. More carbonated than I assumed it was going to be.
It's a little bubbly. No, it's good. I can definitely see that going with seafood.
I don't know about spicy food. I could see it, but...
I don't like spicy food.
I love spicy food, but ordered Mexican last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? I'm assuming it's all Mexican places. But why in the world, when you order one dish, why do they use a whole pepper? A whole green pepper. Or if you might have a red pepper and you mix them, there's literally you could make a whole pepper with all the slices of pepper that they got cooked in your dish. Not the whole table's dish.
No, just yours.
I'm over here moving these peppers out of the way. And I'd be dang, there was like a whole pepper there.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, how many peppers do they go through?
Yeah, I bet. Oh gosh, I can only imagine. I like peppers. I don't like spicy, like chili peppers. But I love green, red, orange, yellow peppers. I like them raw as well. I think you've seen me eat them at like lunch sometimes.
Now I can do a red, yellow, or orange, but there's something about the green ones. After I've had Jacob,
just don't want them.
They're not. I'll eat them, but they're not my favorite.
They just have to be minimal.
And I didn't have that problem before.
Yeah,
so.
I can understand that. A lot of things change after women reproduce.
That's ridiculous.
We're the lucky ones. Goodness.
All right, so what are you going to tell me about today?
So I was in dire need of a survivor tale. After, John Wayne Gacy and after our old Salisbury Road shooting story, I needed a bit of a pick-me-up. And so I figured our listeners did too. So today I am going to be telling you the amazing tale of Bridget Kelly. So grab a glass.
Grab a friend.
And let's dive in. Bridget, the third of 4 children, attended St. Cecilia's Elementary and Omaha Dutchinson and graduated from St. Louis University. She started her teaching career at Keelan, Texas, home of Fort Hood, where she taught the children of Army families. Her story really begins on June 21st of 2002 in Keelan, Texas. She was working as a teacher and lived alone. That night, she went to pick up a girlfriend from the airport in Austin around midnight. She drove her friend the 80 miles home. When she returned to her gated apartment complex around 3 a.m., she recalled that the gate to the complex had actually been broken and was stuck in the open position. But she parked in her spot, locked both of the deadbolts, and put the chain on the door behind her, and started getting ready for bed. While she was changing, brushing her teeth, and taking out her contacts, she hears a large bang from the front of her apartment, and she runs to the door to look out of the peephole when she sees a strange man running at her door. She says she didn't even have time to step back when he kicked it in. It flew open, hitting her in the face and knocking her to the ground. The stranger enters her home, points a 9mm at her, and explains he wants money. She goes to her purse and hands him the $40 that she had on her, and he told her to get her keys because they were going to get more. She said he took her keys and he walked in front of her, going straight to her 1993 Nissan Maxima, and she said she knew at that point that he had been watching her. He had seen her get out of her car alone, walk to the house alone. He was just waiting for an opportunity.
Right.
She's looking around the parking lot, praying there would be someone there, but it's 3 a.m. and no one is outside. And she, of course, chooses not to run because she said something about him said that he wasn't trying just to scare her, that if she did anything wrong, that he would shoot her.
That's gotta be terrifying.
I can only imagine. And you know what kills me about this is she did everything right. And she says it in a couple of interviews that I watched with her. You know, she did everything right. She had 2 deadbolts on her door.
Right. She
had a chain lock on her door. And there's just something so violating of somebody kicking that in. And your door, the only thing that's protecting you from the outside world,
right,
flying into your home and being broken down. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to think about. It gives me chills. So they start driving to an ATM, and on the way, she begins trying to talk to him. She's praying out loud and tells him that she's a teacher and that she loves teaching children to read. She asked him if there were any teachers that he remembered from his childhood or any favorite stories he enjoyed as a child. She said that she told him her favorite was always Peter Rabbit, and even quoted a passage from that story at one point. This whole time she's thinking in her head, what are you doing? But she says all she could think about was trying to humanize herself. She wanted this man to see her as a person.
Right.
Unfortunately, he's completely ignoring her and finally tells her to shut up. They drive to a freestanding ATM in the middle of a big, dark, open parking lot, and he tells her to get out and get as much as she can. The limit was $200, so that's what she gets. She said she once again thought about running because he stayed in the car while she was going up to the ATM. Mm-hmm. But she said, once again, there was nobody around. It was an empty, deserted parking lot. And she still felt very much under his control. So she gets back into the car, gives him the money. Once back in the car, to her horror, he starts driving away from the direction that her apartment, obviously not taking her home, as she was hoping that he would do. And after several minutes of driving around, he stops the car at the edge of a brand new housing development, which was unfinished, dark, and deserted, that bordered a big empty field.
Oh, God.
She says at this point that she knew there was a possibility that she would be killed in this field. And she tells him, a lot of people love me, once again trying to humanize herself with him. But she said in that moment, thinking about death, that was all that mattered, that she had been loved and that her family knew she loved them. He stops the car, tells her to get out and remove her clothes. She says to him, God doesn't want you to do this, but she complies. She said she remembers while she was removing her clothes that the ATM card fell out of her pocket onto the ground, and she remembers thinking that that's how she's going to be identified when they find her dead body.
I could not imagine going through this and those are the thoughts going through your head. Like, I'm going to die, and this is how they're going to find out who I am because I dropped my ID. She said... her debit card.
Yeah, she says seeing that ATM card on the ground, she's like, that's how they're going to know who I am. At that point, she decides that she's going to try to run, and she bolts. Unfortunately, he very easily catches up to her and forces her back into the field with the gun to her back. She recalls trying to stay as calm as she possibly could during the rape. She says that she felt like her only chance of survival was to keep her head straight so that she could think. She said she tried to mentally disconnect from what was happening to her. And this is something that we hear a lot from assault victims. They almost always tell you that they feel like it was happening to someone else, like from someone else's perspective. Like a lot of victims say that they felt like they were looking down at the scene opposed
like to disassociation kind of
absolutely.
Yeah, sort of.
I believe that this is ultimately a way of like our brain trying to protect us, you know, like a defense mechanism kind of. In that moment, it doesn't feel like it's happening to you. They describe often feeling outside of their bodies. And I think this is just kind of a way that our brain like reacts to trauma like that. After the rape, he tells her to turn around and stand with her back to him and says she knew what was about to happen. Even though she knew he was getting ready to shoot her, she was still trying to figure out a way to get out of this and what she was going to do next. She was still planning on surviving this and trying to think critically, which is something I don't know if I could do in that moment.
No, I probably would be so scared I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
I mean, I get you can say that, but I guess you really don't know what you would do until you are, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
situation.
No one knows how you would react in this type of situations. And you often hear people say that your body and mind will amaze you when you're faced with a life or death situation. But I know how I react when I'm safe in my home and my dog startles me coming from around the corner. Like I just freeze and I can't breathe. Like in that moment, you know, I mean, I can only imagine, you know, I just, anyway, I mean, my stomach drops to my feet. Like I don't.
Oh yeah, so I want to puke.
Exactly. And it's such a split second.
And it's like my heart stops.
Exactly. And she even says, like, you know, she said, you know how whenever you get startled, you take a deep breath and then you realize everything's okay and you let it out. She said the moment that her door got kicked in, she said she felt her body like tense up just like that, except she was never able to release it because he was in her house that fast. She tells herself as soon as she hears that gun go off, she needs to fall and play dead. That's what she has to do. And then it happens. He shoots her in the back and she falls to the ground. He walks and stands over her and shoots her for a second time. She's not moving. She's not making a sound. She said she was lying as still as she could and just kind of let her body roll with the blow of the bullet. She said that she heard him start to walk away, but as he's doing that, he turns and shoots her for a third time.
What the heck?
Just to be sure she's dead. He then gets in her car and drives away. As soon as she couldn't hear the car anymore, she said she got up on her hands and knees and just tried to breathe. She said that she was just trying to catch a breath. She realizes how hard it is for her to catch a breath, and she tells herself that she's 24. She is not supposed to die like this in this field alone. She said at that point, she just focused. Something in her body just said, think. What do you need? I'm bleeding. You need an ambulance. How do I get an ambulance? She said that she let her brain take over and knew that she had to get out of there and get help. She saw lights from houses in the distance and said, I just had to get to those houses. There are people in there and they will help me. She stands up and she can feel the blood, but doesn't quite know how bad it is. You know, she's naked and beaten and scratched up, takes a couple of steps forward and just falls. She said in that moment, she just had this huge rush of energy. She said it felt like somebody literally shoved her in the direction that she needed to go. Like God was telling her to go now and to run. So she did. This woman ran 200 yards. You guys, I don't know if any of you guys are football fans. 100 yards is the size of a football field. This woman ran 2 of those, raped, shot, naked. She reached a house and banged on the door, calling for help, but no one answered. It turns out there was a woman inside, but was absolutely terrified about what was possibly happening outside of her house. So she calls 911 at 3:50 a.m. Of course, not knowing this, Bridget stumbles to the next house and falls to the porch, banging on the door, trying to reach for the doorbell, when 43-year-old Frank James, who was a retired Army vet of Desert Storm and Somalia, opens the door. He looks down and sees Bridget, calls to someone inside of his house to grab a blanket, and he knelt down and holds Bridget until the police and rescue arrives. Now, this quote really gets me. Okay. You guys might actually hear me cry on this podcast for the first time. But she said, quote, "That's what I needed in that moment. I needed a soldier." So, I mean, he recalls looking down at her and knowing that those were bullet holes because he had been in combat. And she, I mean, just to go through what he went through in,
right,
in his time with the Army, but then to be faced with this. And, she just said that, that's who I needed. I needed him. Okay. Made it through that. She was rushed into surgery to repair her stomach, liver, diaphragm, colon, intestines, and spleen. Jeez. 6.5 hours later after surgery, a 6.5 hour surgery, the doctors had saved her life. That's her in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
She said that it was the second bullet that really tore through everything. Bridget's father, Mike Kelly, was, and still is to my knowledge, a newspaper columnist in Omaha, Nebraska. He was the first to get the call about his daughter and was also the first to arrive in Texas to be with her. Mike Kelly says, quote, "She couldn't speak because she had tubes in everywhere, including her nose and her mouth, but she made a little motion that she wanted to write," unquote. So he handed her a pen and the reporter's notebook that he always kept on him, and she began to write. Bridget began filling the book with her thoughts that she'd been thinking about during the attack and how much she didn't want to die. When her father told her that her story was hitting the news, she writes, "Tell them it's okay to say rape." She's ultimately giving the permission to use her name and to tell the story exactly how it happened.
Right.
She says it's hard for people to wrap their minds around the idea of being exposed as a rape survivor. And that's the word that we will be using from here on out, when appropriate, instead of the word victim. She said it's powerful and liberating. See, most of the time survivors and victims' names are not printed or published when reports like this come out. And Bridget said that she wasn't going to be ashamed of what happened to her, that she did nothing wrong, and that she wasn't going to let this haunt her. She also allowed her own father to write a column in his newspaper about it, in hopes that more people would reach out for help. She says this isn't about having your name in the paper or being on TV. It's simply about not staying quiet. It's about encouraging people to not be ashamed and to talk to someone about it if they feel like they need to show other survivors that they are not alone. 7 months after the attack, she returned to the field where it happened to record a public service announcement. That's her dad and her.
Oh, she's pretty.
It said, quote, "The first step of becoming a survivor is to talk about it. We derive strength from each other, and to connect like that is such a comforting feeling." Later in the week, the James family, who opened the door to Bridget, visits the hospital. Frank and his wife, who were natives of North Carolina, celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary in March. He builds modular homes, and his wife works at an army commissary at that time. They had 2 beautiful children, Dante, who was 13, and Nakia, who was 11. Bridget said that as soon as she saw the reaction of the man who opened the door at their house, she knew that he was a father. Quote, "Your dad is my hero," unquote. Bridget quietly told Dante and Nakia from her hospital bed during the visit. She told them, "When that door opened for the first time, I finally thought I would make it. For the first time, I thought that. He was so brave." When Frank visited the hospital, he hugged Bridget and said that he was glad to see her. Bridget's family says that they were grateful he opened the door that night. The attacker could have been nearby. Frank says, quote, "I wasn't going to leave her there no matter what, even if that guy had returned," unquote. Sounds like another badass in my book.
Agreed.
3 years ago, unfortunately, the man who she calls her guardian angel died of natural causes at 53.
Aww.
Her father, Mike, was honored to eulogize him at his funeral. Bridget was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, a condition doctors believe was brought on by the trauma of her attack, but she has reclaimed her life, raising funds for diabetic research and speaking out about violent crimes like her own attack. She also returned to teaching.
Nice.
Bridget said, "There is so much shame and scrutiny about rape, which ultimately keeps rape victims from seeking the help they need so much. We can support one another. So many family friends came forward to tell us they had been raped, and until this happened, we had no idea. When I was in the hospital, a longtime friend of the family who I'd known my whole life came and stood at the bedside and told me about her own story, about how she'd been raped. I said, "Do you think about it every day?" When she said no, I knew at that moment I would get there too. Her attacker, who she has stated in the past that she didn't want named, so I'm going to respect that, was 18 years old at the time.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but I say what like that because a lot of these stories that we do research and they are older.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just
kids.
barely legal. You know?
Absolute kids.
I know it can happen at any age. It could happen, while we were in high school or, whatever, but it's still, it's shocking to hear it.
Yeah. And he's an absolute monster. At 18 years old, he was caught after returning to the scene to show off her dead body to a couple of friends. He arrived to gloat about what he had done.
And his friends went.
Which means they're just as much pieces of shit. Yeah. And when he saw
why would you want to go see? I wouldn't be your friend. Number two, I'd be turning you in.
Yeah.
And
it was so soon after there were still medical personnel on the site. So when they saw all of the medical personnel surrounding the area, they bolted. And his friends were caught and gave him up once they were caught.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He is currently in prison and not eligible for parole until 2052.
Good. Hopefully he dies there.
Yep. So we're not going to focus on the attacker because that's not what Bridget wants her story to be about. And like you and I say all the time, we try so hard to focus on the victims. So I'm going to tell her story the way that she wants it told. For several years after her attack, she actually served as a trained sexual assault and violence intervention advocate, where she would visit people in the emergency room after their attacks.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. She says that as an advocate, I have more time to listen and try to help the survivors understand that they didn't deserve what happened and that it wasn't their fault. I think that this is a fantastic thing to have at a hospital because, let's face it, the doctors, they're the only ones there most of the time, and they have several other patients, and they're busy, and they're not psychiatrists. They're not there to just sit on your bedside and listen. They don't have time to do that. The nurses don't either. They're busy, and that's completely understandable. So to have somebody there strictly just to listen to you and to talk to you, especially someone who went through it, I think that that's amazing. That's her now.
Aww. She looks very happy.
And to end this amazing story with even more great news, in 2012, she married a TV producer by the name of Eric Strauss, who did a story on her in 2004.
Oh, cool.
Yep. They reunited in New York while she was getting her master's degree because she's a badass. And in 2015, they welcomed a beautiful baby boy, Joshua Carl Strauss, into the world at 8 pounds, 15 ounces. At an oddly symbolic time of 3:35 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yep. That's them at their wedding.
Aww.
That's baby Joshua.
So cute.
After breakfast on the morning of his birth, Bridget read Joshua a favorite story aloud. The Tale of Peter Rabbit.
Aww.
I know I'm going to cry again.
That's sweet.
So
I always love a survivor's tale.
Yeah, like I said, it was one that was needed. It's an amazing story. I actually took a page out of the My Favorite Murder podcast playbook. The first time I heard the story was from the an episode of I Survived, which I absolutely love that show. But it was just a very touching story, and she has went on to do many, many more interviews, obviously, and just trying to turn what happened to her into, into something that will help others. And I think that
that's brave of her to do that.
Cause that she's reliving it every time she does, and to visit those people in the hospital, even, she probably sees herself laying in that bed every time she walks into a room, but she overcomes it and she realizes that this is bigger than her. And, so it's just an amazing situation to hear, an amazing story to tell. And, I was just, I needed it. I needed it. So to end our podcast episode today, we do have a listener's tale.
Yay! We haven't had one in a long time.
Yes. This one is actually from a host of another podcast called Malice and Mocktails.
Okay.
Yes. So they actually... So Katie and Emily are the ones who host it. Katie's the one that I've been talking to, and she doesn't drink alcohol, and so she makes all of these like amazing mocktails.
Oh,
and they look so delicious. Like you guys have to go and check them out on Instagram because she'll post like a recipe and stuff. So
like
definitely go and check. Yes, go and check that out. They have non-alcoholic whiskey?
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. It is non-alcoholic whiskey, and it tastes
like whiskey.
Yes, it does. Katie writes, "Hi, Michelle and Kandi. I've been listening to y'all for a few weeks now and just love your show. So my stepdad recounted to me and my sister." Oh, Emily's her sister.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. So my stepdad recounted to me and my sister the other day a time where he encountered a ghost while training at an old prison, and I thought it would be right up your alley for your listener's story. H, our stepdad, recently retired from a long career training and evaluating explosive detection dogs.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. H, thank you first off so much for your service. That is amazing. And I am super jealous that you got to like hang out with cool dogs all like, right, like that's like a dream job.
Right. Like how great would that, I mean, you get to hang out with dogs
all day. That's amazing.
Like, oh, I gotta go to work.
Boo. Gonna go see all the puppies.
I'm gonna go play with dogs.
All the smart.
I get paid to do it.
I know. All the smart dogs. The other day I asked him if he had ever experienced any creepiness at the cool places he had traveled, and this is what he told us. The last time he was in LA, which was a few years ago, he was at the sheriff's department training facility, and they were training in an old prison cell block. It was him, one of his colleagues, the handler, and their dog, and a few sheriff's deputies. There were various bags and luggage lined up in the cell block to where the handler and the dog could move through them, and the dog would signal if they sensed the training aid. The handler gets ready to go, and the dog freezes, and it will not move. He looks at the dog, and then to the handler, and then to his colleague, and they just look at each other questioningly. Then, as if out of a movie, everyone in unison follows the dog's gaze towards the end of the cell block. And all of them, she puts in capitalization, all of them see the same thing. A woman just standing there looking back at them. After what seems like hours, one of the deputies says they would go see who it is. What? Okay, sir, more power to you.
No way, Jose.
As the deputy moves to walk down the hall, the ghost woman turns and walks through the wall. Through the wall!
I hope to God he does not continue walking. At
that time, H was like, nope, and he told everybody they were training outside. Me too, H. Good call. Right behind you, buddy. She said, I really should have recorded him telling us the story, but I hope that you guys get a kick out of it because I love it. Just so everybody knows, we will take recordings if you send them in. Yeah. She says, I'm catching up on all of your episodes. Keep them coming. You both are amazing. Katie from Malice and Mocktails, a true crime podcast.
Thanks, you guys. That was funny.
Yes, thank you, Katie. We really appreciate it.
I've been like, nope.
Yes.
Outside I go.
So definitely send in your stories, somebody else's story if you want to. Anything that you guys think will give us a little chuckle, something that you think our listeners would enjoy. Go and check out Malice and Mocktails. And you can submit those stories either to our Gmail account, which is sipsofcrime@gmail.com, or there is a form on our website at sipsofcrime.com. Again, definitely go and check out the new line of our college tees. And like I said, you're going to be blown away. Carusa did a great job.
Yes. And you can get those images on water bottles. And
all sorts of things. Yeah. Like, if you're not like a hoodie t-shirt person, because everybody knows that I'm a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt problem. And it's okay. I live with that.
Which if you've listened to Happy Hour at Pigeon Forge, we discussed the t-shirt issue.
But I mean, if you're
It's not a bad issue to have, though.
It's not. But I mean, you can get any of our designs in hoodies if you prefer that. There are also, like Kandi said, water bottles and different I think there's a tote bag on there. We have and stickers. Oh, good Lord!
Yes,
if you're not a t-shirt person and you love stickers, you can get all of our designs.
We need to get
in
a bunch
stickers.
of them and put them on our refrigerator in the basement.
That would be amazing.
Holds all the alcohol.
Yes, there you go. That would be a perfect place for those.
Well, that's where all the other stickers are.
But yeah, so again, just thank you guys so much for listening. We hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
You can join our freaky little family both on Instagram and Facebook and find all of the featured photos from this episode
At Sips of Crime.
For a chance to have your story featured on one of our future episodes, send us a Gmail
to sipsofcrime@gmail.com.
and you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we would really appreciate you giving us a 5-star review because it really helps other people find our podcasts and our episodes. Thanks for listening. Stay alive.